Welcome back to the Emerging Leader podcast. This is actually a very short insight episode. I think it's insight number 3. And this is such a really critical thing and something I've personally dealt with. So it's going to be a quick one, but I really hope you write this on your mirror and marker or whatever you need to do. And this episode is all about identity as it relates to your degree, career, relationship, whatever. All of this, no matter what sort of thing you add into the title here, it's all about how you are not that. You are not your career. You are not your degree. You are not your industry. And this is something I see people struggling with all the time. And personally, I really struggled with this about my degree. I was like, if I'm an engineer or if I have an engineering degree, I have to use my engineering degree. And I think we're repeatedly seeing this. And I'm going to have some really cool guests actually coming up that talk specifically to this about how people are so attached to the degree that they have or the career that they've been a part of for so long that it's really hard for them to actually look outside of that and work outside of that. So anyways, let's get into this insight episode. The Emerging Leader Podcast. All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this super quick episode. So again, like I was saying, you are not your degree, you're not your career, you're not your industry. And this is specifically something I see all the time in young professionals and have dealt with myself. It's this feeling of obligation to the degree, to the career, to the industry that you've been a part of. It's kind of this sunk cost feeling as well. And the feeling like, oh my God, if I have done this degree, that's what I need to be working in. But the fact of the matter, specifically when it comes to a degree, like an engineering degree, social work degree, any degree, like literally any of them, is that two things. One, a degree teaches you how to learn. That's literally it. Yes, in engineering, we study technical skills. I don't think I've used many of those technical skills actually in my career. I've used some of like the, themes in that, but more importantly, I've used the ability to learn. And I think most degrees are like that, where skills are very, very transferable. And also there's no sunk cost in this, or sunk cost is something that people actually get caught in. It's like, oh, well, I spent 4.5, 5 years in university, so I should be doing this. Well, no, what you should be doing is focusing on what actually makes you happy and focusing on how do you promote yourself and build a personal brand around using the skills that you have from your degree or your career or your industry and transferring them to something that you would actually much rather do. So again, this comes back to the identity issue. You cannot identify with your degree, career, or industry. You are not that. You are not, engineering. You are not reinforcing. It's skills that you've applied to that industry, but no matter how long you've actually spent there, that's not who you are. And you can absolutely take those skills and translate them somewhere else. And also, we need to get beyond this identity associated with the titles of, for me, it was engineer or manager, whatever it is. We need to get beyond that, because absolutely our value and our ability to grow and personal growth extend so far beyond these labels, titles, and what we're actually using our degree for. And careers absolutely evolve. So it's really natural for you to shift industries or to use things in a non-traditional way. And I think actually that's where the power comes into things, because if people are using their degrees in a non-traditional and creative way, then they're going to be happier, definitely, and potentially more successful as well. Plus, a lot of the careers that we may have thought about when we started, actually, like, they probably still exist, but the amount of others that have been created over this time that we never would have considered, that's what we need to be shooting for if that's what's going to make us happier. So how could the university 10 years ago, or oh my God, 11 years ago when I started my engineering degree, very scary to think about that stat, they would have never known about the engineering industry today and some of the non-traditional career paths or roles that you can actually take within engineering. I remember even personally in second year engineering, we did hand drafting. No one is hand drafting. In fact, I've been actively for the last 2 years helping my team move away from that into 3D modeling and BIM. So those sorts of things. We need to really be focused on how our careers can evolve and how we can get creative in this space. But also, in these degrees, many of the skills that you're learning are transferable, such as, soft skills, critical thinking, adaptability. Like I mentioned, the ability to learn. That is a huge skill that most of us have learned through our degrees and careers and industries that can absolutely be transferred across many fields. So again, your degree does not limit your potential. It's just about how do you actually craft your experience in a way that applies to the new industry that you're wanting to get into. And also, as we'll talk about on a future episode, kind of crafting your personal brand around that as well. So personally, when I quit my second job in Oz, I swore off engineering. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with engineering. I had had enough. Not that I hadn't liked it up to that point, but I just thought that there was no way that I could kind of use my skills in a way that would make me happy. Turns out I was wrong. So I was then moved into more of this analytic space, applied digitization, technology focused arena, which again, that was something that because of my ability to learn, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos and teaching myself a lot of these things in order to apply it. So how you get creative with this is really, really important. And also, like I said, embracing that continuous learning in order to pivot into these different industries. So of course, you can speak to people about how they're using their degrees in really unique ways. But the continuous learning piece is definitely something that if you're willing to invest in it, if you're willing to learn, whether that's analytics or social media or marketing, I don't know, all literally anything, you can absolutely make a pivot into a new industry. Actually, one of the first groups that I created in Australia, I used to hold workshops in Melbourne, and I had this, and also the first podcast title is called Destiny by Degree. And the whole premise around Destiny by Degree was about talking about how do people find their destiny through their degree, but not because of it. So how do they use that degree as a launching platform for what they actually want to do? And I used to have this Instagram account where I'd highlight all of these people and what their degree was and actually what they're doing now. And their degree versus current career is completely different. So absolutely do not get discouraged in that. Also, like I said, there is this kind of sense of sunk cost and if I've spent 15 years in this industry already, I don't want to have to relearn something else or go into something different. But if you're unhappy right now, then that's worth it. We cannot get caught up in the sunk cost or the sunk cost of doing a degree or being in a job for a certain amount of time. Cannot get caught up in that. And sunk cost is something that I will not stop talking about on this podcast because I see it affect people so much, whether that's again in their career, staying in an industry, or in a degree where they're like, oh, I guess I'll do my master's in this thing because I've already done a bachelor's. No, do what makes you happy and do what you'll actually be fulfilled in, and follow your own path with that. Which also leads to personal fulfillment versus that external validation. Personally, I did my engineering degree because one, my dad was an engineer. Two, I was good at math and physics, but also it was I was bullied so badly in high school. I just wanted to be screw you guys. I'm going to do a really hard technical degree and I'll show you guys how cool I can be. It turns out engineers are not that cool. And I was misled about how cool engineering would be. Just kidding. But yeah, so we need to get away from this external validation as well that sometimes drives these things about the degree or about what our parents want us to do or about the industry or the career. You look at Jane, who's the CEO and founder of Showpo, a huge clothing company in Australia. I think she was an accountant at EY and she quit, lied to her parents about quitting. So she was actually unemployed for 2 years while her parents thought that she was going to EY. And I hope I'm getting this story correct. I didn't look it up beforehand, but love her and her clothes. So like her parents said that she was going to EY for 2 years to keep them happy, and was actually starting this clothing brand, which is now, doing well over $100 million a year. It's just incredible. So absolutely doing what makes you happy, personal fulfillment instead of that external validation. So the final note that I'll leave on is, again, that instead of chasing success, we need to chase more happiness. What do we actually want to do with our degree? It's not us. I am not the engineering degree. I am not the industry that I've been a part of. I'm not engineering as a whole. I'm not anything. Honestly, I can completely choose how I want to shift this. And also, because I know that I have the skill to learn, and I know that you have the skill to teach yourself and learn new things, that you can absolutely do that and apply it to any industry that you can or that you want to. So again, starting to really chase that happiness and fulfillment versus just the success ladder or what you think you should do or what your parents want you to do. Because there are a lot of people that did the degree that their parents wanted them to do that aren't super, super happy as well. So this episode kind of feels like a bit of a rant, feels like a rant to myself about my engineering degree and how I used to feel about it. And I hope that there's some tidbits that you can take out of this, and also so that you can separate yourself from your degree, from your career, from your industry, and you are not that. And you can look more, I guess, objectively at what you'd actually like to do and what would actually fulfill you, which very well could be the industry that you're in. It could be a slight role pivot. It could be something else. But again, I would just really encourage you to look at that. And for all of the young professionals listening, you are not your degree. Say it louder for the people in the back. Seriously, you're not. And it's very easy to get caught up in that. Personally, I still do, especially as I pay my student loan balance every month, which is like a mortgage in Canada every month, that I send money to the Canadian government for my degree. 11 years later, it's hard not to feel obligated to that thing, which I know a lot of people can relate to, but anyways, you're not. And so I really hope that you find fulfillment in whatever path you actually really, really want to take. So with that, here's a quick inside episode for the week, and really looking forward to having you guys on future episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on YouTube or Spotify or Apple or wherever, please subscribe. It really helps the podcast actually go to more people. So thank you so much. Hope you have an amazing day, and I will catch you on the next episode. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm recording today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders that are listening to the podcast.